Welcome back, my wisdom walkers. And for those of you that are new viewers, I thank you for stopping by my channel, Life Lessons Learned. I have a question for all of you. Has there ever been a time in your life when you discovered you were one question away from success and you didn't ask it? Not only did you not ask it, you never even thought about asking the question because fear may have gripped you to the point of no return. That happened to me in my life, and I'm going to share with you how someone posed the question to me and what I did as a result of that. Because remember, knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. So let's get into it. At this time in my life, I had just published my very first book. It was called Choices, the Powers Within You. Now, this happened to be long before, Amazon and all of the online retailers and everything that we know today. So at that time, a author's choices were to see if they can get their books in local libraries, local bookstores, or at the major bookstore at the time, which was, of course, a physical bookstore, Barnes and Noble. Now, most people say, my book is going to be a bestseller. Everyone's going to want this. And so you, of course, are excited about the information you're sharing in the book. But of course, you have to also sit down and write out all of the letters asking people to take a look at it, to review it, to consider putting it on their shelves. So that was a tedious project in itself. Okay. It's like another job, to be honest with you. Well, I had gotten the book to be in local bookstores because most bookstores do like working with local authors and that way they can have book signings and book readings and things like that. So it's kind of a win-win situation for the author as well as the bookstore themselves when it comes to sales. Well, with Barnes and Noble, it was a bit different. You had to, of course, submit a letter, a copy of your book, tell a little bit about yourself as an author, what your experience is to be writing that topic, and things like that. So I completed all of that, very excited, thinking, of course, Barnes and Noble would want my book, right? Well, and you have to wait sometimes months before you even get an acceptance letter or the dreaded rejection letter. You can guess it. I got the rejection letter, and it was not mean or rude. It just was one page. It said they had taken a look at my book. The surprising thing is, they said that they thought the information was very informative, that it was inspiring and motivating, but it didn't meet their requirements. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it has good information, it's inspiring, it's motivating, but it doesn't meet your standards. What does it have to do? But like most of us, I thought to myself, well, at least you tried. And we all know nothing beats a failure but a try. So at least you can say, you put your best foot forward. You've done what you've needed to do. And if it wasn't up to their requirements or standards, then it just isn't. Well, at that time in my life, I happened to be teaching classes at a local university. And at the end of one of those classes, I shared that story with my students. And I was like, sometimes we have dreams or passions and things don't work out the way that we would like them to. But for me, I said it was still a success to be able to have the book in local bookstores and to be able to set up signings and things like that and readings. Well, at the end of the class, one of the students came up to me, you guys, and she was, nice and, excited. And she came up to me and she said, that story you shared was very inspiring, but you left out an important part. I'm like, I left out an important part of my story? Well, why don't you tell me what I left out? And she said, you didn't share with us why it didn't meet Barnes and Noble requirements. You guys, I just gave her a blank stare and she immediately knew. She was like, please don't tell me you didn't at least ask what it needed. I was like, it's Barnes and Noble. You think I'm going to question Barnes and Noble? And without being mean and without batting an eye, she said, They already had rejected it, so why not ask what it was, and that way you can do something about it in your next book. Ah, yes, sometimes others can see things much more clearly than we can, especially if we're looking from a standpoint of fear. And honestly, you guys, that's exactly where I was at. I was like, well, Barnes and Noble, it's the biggest book retailer in the US. There's no way I'm going to say, hey, by the way. But she had a point. And I have to say, I'm sweating here. I said, well, she's right. I have nothing to lose at this point, and maybe they can give me valuable information as to why the book did not meet their requirements. So that weekend, I wrote to the Barnes and Noble representative that sent me the rejection letter, because who else would be the one to tell me why it didn't meet their requirements? And this person was the one that had reviewed the book and said it was inspiring, it was motivating, da 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 da. You guys are not going to believe, first of all, how quickly I got a response back and what the response was. She actually, in the next letter she sent to me, my hair keeps getting in my mouth. And the next letter she sent to me, she said, Sherry, or, well, I think she said Miss Brantley, I am so glad you contacted me. She said, the only thing that we need is for you to get a barcode for your book. Because, of course, book retailers and stores have to have a way to track the book. Now, local bookstores can get away with that because they can contact the author locally and, meet with you directly and have you come in. But a major bookstore needs to have the barcode. Now, of course, today you have to have that anyway. But back then, like I said, with local bookstores and local authors, they kind of worked around that. So you would not believe how relieved I was. So actually, essentially, the book had met their requirements. I just needed the barcode to attach to it. Now, you might say, why didn't they just say that in the first letter? Because I'm like, you could have told me that and I could have resolved that issue and not been feeling rejected, dejected because I didn't meet your standards. But the writing had met their standards, the context had met their standards, the topic had met their standards. The book in itself was fine. It was a great book. So all I had to do at that point was research how to get a barcode and what the cost would be and all of that. And trust me, I did all of that right away, resubmitted the book. And within, I want to say 4 to 6 weeks, it may have been 6 to 8 weeks back at that time, my book was actually accepted at Barnes and Noble, the national #1 book selling retailer in the United States. And you can imagine the celebration I had once I hit that milestone. But the reason I'm making this video is there may be some of you out there who are just one question away from success. And granted, you may not know what that question is, but talking with other people, as I did with that class that I shared my story with, others may have ideas or suggestions that you could do that could move you forward in your path to complete some of the goals or dreams that you have in your own life. And quite frankly, I don't understand why I didn't think of that. I mean, normally when someone says no, the first question is, well, why? Or what can I do to improve? But again, it was Barnes and Noble, and I was like, I'm not going to question their authority. So if you have something in your life that you're trying to achieve, or you've reached a closed door, or you've heard a no, ask why. Find out what you can do to improve that product or that service or your skills, and then begin to implement that. Now, as you all know, this is life lessons learned. My mantra is knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. And I want to point that part out because after that student asked me that, I could have still gone home and said, no, I'm not going to ask them why. I've already been rejected. I don't want to be rejected twice. But the wisdom being in the doing led me to do the action steps that I needed to do. and find out it was such a minor adjustment that needed to be made. So I wanted to share that with you. For my wisdom walkers, thank you always for coming back to my channel. Please start to leave your comments, you guys. I, I would love to know some of your experiences or some of your events in your past that may have prevented you from success and how you were able to overcome them or improve on what you were doing so that it did lead to its success. Or maybe at some point you're still waiting to get that yes for whatever project you're working on. Don't give up, don't stop, and don't quit. So please, for the new subscribers, if you're so inclined, please subscribe and come back and visit this channel. We're going to be talking about different experiences that we've all had and what we've learned from those experiences and how we can begin to apply what we've learned in our lives moving forward. This is Sherry Brantley. I will see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.